The sky over the planet Kalara burned with a dull, reddish light. Smoke rose from shattered towers, and the ground trembled with distant explosions. This world, once full of lush forests and flowing rivers, had been conquered by the ruling alien regime. They called themselves the Zarkari, a race of towering beings with blue-scaled skin and glowing eyes. They ruled with strength, fear, and ancient traditions that crushed the will of those who lived under their control. In a small chamber carved from black stone, Lyra, a young alien girl, sat quietly. Her large eyes reflected both fear and stubborn determination. She was only 16 by her species count, but she had learned quickly that survival here depended on more than strength. It depended on hope and courage, even if the world tried to crush them. 2 guards stood on either side of the room. Their weapons were long, metallic rods that hummed with energy. The room smelled faintly of metal and smoke. A third figure, higher ranked and adorned with ceremonial armor, stepped forward. He was tall, even among the Zarkari, with silver markings etched into his blue skin. His voice was cold as ice. "Lyra of the Talon," he said, his words echoing in the chamber. "Your time has come. You will take part in the sacred bonding ritual. It is your duty, and you cannot refuse." Lyra swallowed hard. She had heard stories of this ritual. It was not simply a ceremony. It was a life dictated by the Zarkari. Many young aliens before her had been forced into this practice, their voices silenced, their dreams crushed. She closed her eyes and wished she could disappear, wished the floor would swallow her whole, but she knew that fear alone would not save her. Outside, the halls of the fortress were alive with patrols and drones. The Zarkari took no chances with their captives. Every step, every glance, was monitored. Somewhere in the city, human forces had landed. And Jack, the human soldier, moved silently through the shadows. His team had been sent on a mission to rescue captives from this world, to strike fear into the hearts of oppressors, and to prove that humans, despite being smaller and less numerous, could stand against even the strongest enemies. Jack crouched behind a pile of rubble, scanning the patrols through a small, advanced optical device. His dark uniform blended perfectly with the broken walls and smoke-filled air. He had trained for situations like this, but seeing a real planet under siege, with its people trapped and terrified, made his chest tighten. He had never fought aliens this powerful before. He had always trained for the worst, but now the reality of it pressed down on him. Through the corridor, he could see a guard dragging a young alien girl toward a ceremonial chamber. Even from this distance, he could tell she was afraid. Her body trembled, but her steps were steady. That showed courage. That showed determination. That meant she had not yet given up. Jack's team whispered through comms. "Target acquired. Confirm visual." "Confirmed," Jack said softly. The countdown had already begun. Every second that passed brought Lyra closer to a fate she had no choice in deciding. Jack's mind raced. There was only one way. He would need to act now. That, if he hesitated, she would be lost. He signaled his team, and they fanned out, moving silently, disabling surveillance drones with precision tools and EMP grenades. Back in the chamber, Lyra's thoughts were a storm. She remembered her family, lost to the Zarkari when she was just a child. She remembered the stories her mother had told her of brave humans who had once helped her people. Lyra had always believed those were just legends, tales meant to comfort children. But now, as the guards approached, a small spark of hope ignited inside her. She had to believe. She had to survive. The ceremonial chamber was large and intimidating. Its walls glowed with strange symbols that pulsed in rhythm with the alien chanting outside. The higher-ranked officer motioned for the guards to bring her forward. Lyra's hands were bound with cords of glowing energy, but she did not struggle violently. She had learned that sudden movements could bring harsher punishment. Instead, she focused, keeping her mind sharp and alert. At that moment, a sudden explosion shook the outer walls. The guards froze, looking toward the source. Smoke and debris filled the corridors outside. A shadow darted across the flickering lights, moving faster than any Zarkari could react. Jack had arrived. He moved with precise control, taking advantage of the confusion. One guard was incapacitated with a stun rod. Another was pulled to the ground by a silent grappling hook. Lyra could not understand exactly what was happening, but she could see the figure, a human, smaller than the Zarkari, but faster and more focused than anyone she had ever seen. The higher-ranked officer roared, sending waves of command across the room. "Stop him! Stop the intruder! Do not fail the ritual!" But Jack did not stop. His mission was clear. He rushed forward, sliding across the floor and using the environment to shield himself and Lyra. He grabbed her hands and cut through the energy cords with a small blade that shimmered with light. Lyra gasped as she realized what was happening. This human, this stranger, had come to save her. Fear and disbelief flashed across her face, but Jack's steady gaze gave her courage. He whispered urgently, "We have to move. Now." The guards rallied, but Jack pushed forward with unrelenting determination. Every movement showed that humans were clever, adaptable, and unafraid to face danger to save others. Lyra, inspired by his bravery, followed his lead. She ran alongside him, her small form darting through the shadows as the alien soldiers scrambled to catch them. For a moment, the chamber seemed frozen in tension. One human, one alien girl, against the might of the Zarkari. It should have been impossible. But courage does not measure by size, nor strength by numbers. It measures by the willingness to act, to protect, and to stand for what is right. Jack led Lyra through twisting corridors and hidden passages. The sounds of pursuit were close, but his careful planning and quick thinking kept them ahead. Lyra began to realize that humans, despite their differences, had a spark that the Zarkari could not predict, a combination of intelligence, bravery, and relentless will. As they reached a small access hatch that led toward the outer levels of the fortress, Jack paused for a moment. "Almost there," he said. "Stay close. Don't look back." Lyra nodded, feeling a mix of fear and hope. She had no idea what would happen next, but for the first time, she felt that her life might truly belong to her. That thought alone made her run faster, fight harder, and trust in the human who had risked everything to save her. Above them, the red sky of Kalara glowed dimly through cracks in the fortress walls. The war-torn world seemed indifferent to their struggle, yet in this small moment, life and hope had taken root. Jack and Lyra pressed forward, unaware of what awaited them beyond the walls, but determined to survive. In that instant, one human soldier had proven something extraordinary. Even against impossible odds, courage and determination could change the course of a life. And in the heart of a young alien girl, a seed of hope had begun to grow. Jack led Lyra through narrow corridors that twisted like the roots of an ancient tree. Every step was cautious, yet urgent. The fortress was vast and alive with motion. Alien guards shouted commands in sharp, unfamiliar tones, their weapons humming with dangerous energy. The sounds of pursuit followed them like shadows, never far behind. Lyra struggled to keep up at first, her small legs moving as fast as they could. Fear made her stumble, but Jack reached back, catching her just before she fell. "Stay close," he whispered. "We can't stop now." His voice was calm, steady, the kind of voice that gave hope even in the darkest moment. As they moved, Lyra noticed strange markings along the walls. They pulsed faintly, glowing like living veins. Jack paused for a moment, examining them. "These are security sensors," he said quietly. "If we trip one, alarms will sound. Follow me exactly. Step by step. He led her carefully, using shadows and broken debris to hide their movements. For the first time since her capture, Lyra began to see the human in a new light. Small, fragile-looking, yet fearless. He was different from anyone she had ever met. His determination and intelligence shone through every decision he made. Her fear did not vanish, but it was joined by a spark of hope. Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed from a side corridor. A patrol drone had noticed their movement and whirred toward them. Jack acted immediately. He grabbed a loose pipe from the floor and swung it at the drone. Sparks flew as the drone crashed to the ground, disabled. Lyra gasped. The human was clever. He did not rely on brute strength but on quick thinking and understanding his environment. They continued, ducking into a small side chamber to catch their breath. Lyra's heart pounded, but she spoke softly, almost afraid to break the quiet. Why? Why are you helping me? Jack looked at her for a moment, as if weighing his answer. Because no one deserves to be forced into a life they did not choose, he said. Everyone has a right to freedom. And you have the right to decide your own future. His words were simple, but they carried a weight that made Lyra's chest tighten. Humans valued choice. That alone made them different from the Zarkari. Their moment of rest was short. The sounds of pursuit grew louder, closer. Jack pulled her to her feet. We have to move. There's a service hatch ahead. It leads to the outer levels. If we can reach it, we can get closer to the extraction point. They ran, moving as quickly and quietly as possible. The corridors opened into a larger chamber, filled with machinery that hummed with strange energy. Jack studied the layout for a moment, then gestured for Lyra to follow. He leapt across platforms with ease, showing a mix of skill and courage that inspired her to mimic his movements. A patrol squad rounded the corner, weapons raised. Jack did not hesitate. He grabbed a small device from his belt and pressed a button. A pulse of light shot across the room, temporarily blinding the aliens. Lyra covered her eyes, amazed. Humans had strange, clever tools that could turn the tide, even in impossible situations. When the light faded, the squad was disoriented. Jack used the moment to push past them, guiding Lyra with urgency. She followed, her trust in him growing with every step. He was not just strong, he was smart, brave, and willing to risk everything to protect someone else. That was something she had never fully believed existed beyond the stories of old legends. As they neared the outer levels, the corridors opened to a large open space filled with machinery and catwalks. Below, the fortress dropped sharply into a deep canyon. The wind howled, carrying the smell of smoke and dust. Jack led Lyra onto a narrow catwalk, careful with each step. One misstep could mean falling into the abyss below. Halfway across, an alarm blared, echoing through the fortress. The Zarkari had realized an intruder was inside. Guards appeared at multiple entrances, their glowing eyes searching. Jack looked at Lyra. We have to run faster. Don't stop, no matter what you see. Lyra's heart raced, but she ran. She had never felt so alive. Fear was still there, but it was mixed with determination. She was no longer just a victim. She was a participant in her own escape. She had someone who believed in her, someone willing to risk life and limb for her freedom. A guard appeared directly in front of them, blocking their path. Jack did not hesitate. He grabbed a loose metal beam and swung it, knocking the guard backward. Lyra froze for a moment, her eyes wide at the human's courage. He did not pause for thought. Action came first. That courage gave her strength. She ran past, following him without hesitation. Finally, they reached a ladder leading to a maintenance shaft. Jack pulled her close. This way. Quick. He climbed first, then extended a hand to her. Lyra's small hands grasped his firmly, and she climbed after him, each movement careful but quick. As they emerged on the outer level, the city spread out below them. Smoke rose from broken towers, fires burned in distant sectors, and the sky glowed a dull red. It was a harsh, unforgiving world. Yet in that moment, it felt as if a small light of hope existed. Lyra was free, if only temporarily, and it was all because of the human soldier beside her. They paused behind a structure, catching their breath. Lyra looked at Jack. How can you be so brave?" she asked. Jack shrugged slightly, though his eyes remained serious. "It's not about being brave. It's about doing what's right. If you see someone in danger, you help. That's all. Anyone can do it, if they choose to." Lyra nodded slowly, absorbing the words. Humans were different from the Zarkari. They fought not just with strength, but with heart, with intelligence, and with a belief in freedom. That combination made them unpredictable, unstoppable in ways that the Zarkari could never understand. A loud crash from below reminded them they were not safe. More guards were coming, and the fortress would not let them leave without a fight. Jack tightened his grip on his weapon. "Ready?" he asked. Lyra nodded. She was ready. She had no weapons, no advanced technology, but she had something stronger. Trust in a human who had risked everything to save her. And that trust, in this moment, felt like the strongest shield she could carry. They moved again, running across the rooftops, jumping from platform to platform, and using the fortress's own design to evade capture. Each step, each calculated leap, showed that humans were more than just survivors. They were problem solvers, fighters, and protectors. The chase was far from over. But Lyra no longer felt like a helpless captive. She was running with hope, with courage, and with a human soldier who had proven that one life could make a difference, even against a seemingly unstoppable enemy. Jack and Lyra sprinted across the jagged rooftops of the alien fortress. The red sky of Kaelara glowed over the city, casting long shadows from broken towers and crumbling walls. Smoke and dust filled the air, and distant explosions rattled the ground beneath them. Every step was a challenge, but Jack moved with precision, calculating each leap and landing as if the world itself were part of his plan. Lyra followed, her trust in him growing with every step. Below them, alien patrols scrambled to respond. The Zarkari were strong and fast, but they relied on their size and numbers rather than creativity. Jack knew this. He had trained for situations exactly like this, where speed, intelligence, and adaptability could overcome raw power. He moved like a shadow, using debris and overhangs to hide their path. Lyra's small heart pounded, but she ran without hesitation. Fear was still there, but it was accompanied by determination. She had been a captive, almost forced into a life she did not want. Yet now, she was choosing her own path. Every step she took beside Jack was a step toward freedom, toward hope, toward a future she had only dreamed of. They reached a large gap between two towers. The drop below was terrifying, the wind whipping past them in violent gusts. Lyra froze for a moment, her mind screaming that the fall could be fatal. Jack glanced back and extended his hand. "You can do it," he said firmly. "Jump with me." Lyra took a deep breath, trusting him completely. She ran, leapt, and felt the wind lift her before she landed safely on the opposite tower. Jack followed immediately. For the first time, Lyra felt exhilaration replace fear. Humans were fearless not because they did not feel danger, but because they chose to act in spite of it. That courage inspired her. As they moved, Jack kept scanning their surroundings. "We need to find a safer route. The patrols are tightening. There's a maintenance corridor that leads to the lower city. We can use it to reach the extraction point." Lyra nodded, trying to keep up with his pace. She had never been through a human-led escape before, but every decision he made seemed to carry them closer to safety. She realized that humans were more than just fighters. They were thinkers, planners, and protectors. This human beside her was showing her what it meant to fight for someone else. Not for power, not for glory, but for freedom. They slid down a series of broken scaffolds and narrow ladders, emerging into a shadowed alleyway. The streets were chaotic, filled with alien citizens cowering and hiding from the Zarkari soldiers. Jack moved carefully, shielding Lyra from wandering patrols. She noticed that unlike the Zarkari, humans took risks to protect others, even strangers. That selflessness amazed her. Suddenly, a patrol drone swooped down, scanning the alley with a bright beam of light. Jack grabbed a loose piece of debris and threw it, causing the drone to misfire and lose its focus. Lyra's eyes widened. Humans were clever. They could use their surroundings in ways that the Zarkari could not anticipate. As they continued, Lyra began to talk, her voice low but steady. "On my planet, humans are rare. The legends say you are brave and kind. I never thought I would meet one." Jack glanced at her, his expression serious but gentle. "Legends are true sometimes," he said. "We aren't perfect, but we try. And we fight for those who can't fight for themselves." Lyra absorbed his words. She realized that humans were different from any other species she had seen. They valued choice, courage, and compassion. Those qualities made them unpredictable, and in a world dominated by fear and oppression, unpredictability was power. The chase intensified. Zarkari guards poured into the alley from multiple directions. Jack grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her into a narrow side passage. "This way. Stay close, and don't look back." The passage was dark and narrow, filled with strange machinery and wires that glowed faintly. Jack moved with confidence, stepping carefully over loose panels and pipes. Lyra stumbled, but Jack caught her quickly. "Keep going," he urged. "You're doing great." She felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. She had been moments away from being forced into a life she did not choose. Yet here she was, running through an alien city with a human soldier who had risked everything to save her. For the first time, she felt that her life was truly her own. As they emerged from the passage, they entered a wide plaza. The wind carried the sounds of distant conflict, explosions, shouts, and the hum of alien machinery. Jack scanned the area, spotting a transport vehicle moving slowly along a distant street. "That's our way out," he said. "If we can reach it, we'll have a chance." Lyra nodded, gripping his hand tightly. Together, they sprinted across the plaza, using debris and ruined structures as cover. Zarkari guards pursued, but Jack's strategy and quick thinking allowed them to stay ahead. He created diversions, knocked over obstacles, and guided Lyra with precision. During a brief pause behind a fallen pillar, Lyra looked at him. Jack shook his head. "Not amazing. Just human. We don't give up on people in need. That's all." Lyra smiled faintly, a sense of admiration growing inside her. Humans were different, and she felt lucky to have met one. She realized that courage was not just about strength. It was about heart, determination, and the will to protect others. As they neared the transport vehicle, a large Zarkari squad appeared, blocking their path. Jack assessed the situation quickly. "We can't fight them all head-on. We need a distraction." He spotted a nearby energy conduit and had an idea. He pulled a small device from his belt and activated it. A burst of energy shot into the conduit, creating a bright flash and a loud explosion. The Zarkari soldiers were momentarily stunned, giving Jack and Lyra the opening they needed. They dashed toward the transport, leaping over debris and dodging the remaining guards. Lyra's heart raced, but her trust in Jack kept her moving forward. Finally, they reached the transport. Jack opened the door and helped Lyra inside. The engine roared to life, and the vehicle lifted off, carrying them away from the fortress. Lyra looked back at the city, the red sky, and the chaos below. She realized that she had been saved, not just by luck, but by the courage and determination of one human soldier. As the transport soared into the sky, Lyra turned to Jack. "Thank you," she said softly. I don't know how to repay you." Jack smiled faintly. "Just live your life. That's enough." For the first time in her young life, Lyra felt hope. She was free. And she had witnessed the strength of humans not in power or violence, but in heart, courage, and the willingness to stand for what is right. The experience had changed her. She knew that she would carry this lesson forever. Outside the vehicle, Kalara stretched below them, a war-torn, dangerous world. But within it, a story of hope had been written. One human soldier had stepped in, risking everything to save a life that mattered. And in doing so, he had shown that courage and determination could shine even in the darkest places. Lyra clutched her hands together, watching the alien city fade behind them. She had survived, and she had learned that freedom was worth fighting for. Jack glanced at her, and in that shared glance, they both understood. This was only the beginning of something greater. The transport hummed through the thin, smoky air above Kalara, weaving between jagged cliffs and distant firelit towers. Lyra pressed herself against the seat, still trembling, but the fear that had weighed on her earlier had begun to fade. Jack remained calm, scanning the horizon through a small window. He knew the Zarkari would not give up easily. They had lost one prisoner today, but they would stop at nothing to retrieve her. "Do you see anything?" Lyra asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack shook his head. "Not yet. But they'll be following. The moment we land, we need to move fast." His hand brushed against the controls, adjusting the transport's route to avoid patrol zones. Lyra marveled at how he could think so clearly even after everything that had happened. Humans, she realized, were not only brave, they were clever, able to stay calm when danger was all around them. As they descended toward a hidden canyon that Jack had identified earlier, alarms suddenly blared from the transport. Red lights flashed, and the vehicle jolted. Lyra grabbed the edge of her seat as Jack swore softly under his breath. A Zarkari strike squad had spotted them and fired energy pulses at the transport. "Hold on," Jack shouted. He maneuvered the transport sharply, dodging another volley. Sparks flew across the cabin, but his focus never wavered. He was teaching Lyra a lesson without words. Courage meant action, and survival demanded quick thinking. The transport skidded along a narrow path between cliffs, finally reaching a small plateau hidden from most patrol routes. Jack set the vehicle down with care, making sure it would remain unnoticed for at least a few moments. Lyra climbed out first, her legs still shaky but determined. The air here smelled of cold stone and distant water. For a brief moment, the chaos of the city below was gone. She felt almost safe. Jack scanned the area, keeping his hand on his weapon. "We're not safe yet," he warned. "The Zarkari will be looking for us. We need a plan, if they catch up." Lyra nodded. "What can we do?" Jack looked around, considering the options. "We'll use the terrain to our advantage. Narrow paths, cliffs, and hidden passages. They're big and strong, but not clever like us. If we can guide them through the wrong paths, we can shake them off." As they moved along the rocky terrain, they spotted a bridge spanning a deep chasm. It was narrow and unstable, but it led toward the lower canyon where Jack had arranged extraction. He motioned for Lyra to follow carefully. Halfway across the bridge, a squad of Zarkari soldiers appeared at the opposite end, their glowing eyes fixed on Jack and Lyra. The bridge swayed under their weight. Jack grabbed a loose rope and pulled it, causing part of the bridge to collapse behind them. The soldiers' shouts echoed as some lost balance and fell, though others managed to hold on. Lyra gasped. but Jack did not pause. "Keep moving," he urged. "Every step counts." She followed, her trust in him unshakable. The human's bravery inspired her to move faster than she had ever imagined possible. They reached a narrow canyon path with high cliffs on both sides. The path twisted, turning sharply, forcing their pursuers to slow down. Jack glanced back. "We're making them work for it. Remember, strength isn't everything. They rely on it too much. We'll outsmart them." As they ran, Jack used small tricks to slow the Zarkari. He tipped over boulders to block parts of the path, triggered loose stones to fall and create noise, and even used smoke from nearby fissures to obscure their movements. Each action demonstrated a key human trait: ingenuity. While the Zarkari relied on power and numbers, Jack relied on strategy and intelligence. Lyra began to understand what humans were capable of. Courage was not just fighting with weapons, it was thinking, adapting, and never giving up. With every clever move Jack made, Lyra felt her own confidence growing. She started spotting paths and traps that could help them, following his lead. Finally, they reached a small cavern hidden behind a waterfall. The roar of water masked any sound of their entry. Jack helped Lyra inside and quickly examined the area. "We'll rest here briefly," he said. "Then we make the final push to extraction. They'll expect us to move directly, but we'll use the side paths to avoid the main forces." Lyra sank to the floor, catching her breath. "I never thought I'd see a human like this," she said softly. "So brave, so clever, so willing to risk everything." Jack gave her a small, tired smile. "It's not bravery. It's doing the right thing. When someone is in danger, you act. That's all. Humans call it responsibility." The words made Lyra reflect. The Zarkari ruled with fear, believing strength alone would control everyone. But humans, she realized, had something more powerful: heart and will. That combination made them unpredictable, almost impossible to defeat completely. She felt a spark of hope for her people for the first time. Outside the cavern, the distant sounds of pursuit continued. Jack studied the terrain, mapping their next move. "We can use the cliffs and lower canyon paths. They won't be able to follow as easily. We just have to be careful and smart." Lyra nodded. "I'll do whatever you say. I trust you." Jack glanced at her, impressed. Trust was rare in a world ruled by fear, and he knew that earning it was more valuable than any weapon. "Good," he said. "Stay close. Keep your eyes open, and follow my lead. Nothing else matters right now." 1. They moved again, emerging from the cavern into a network of narrow cliffside paths. Each step was precarious, the wind howling around them. But Jack's guidance and calm presence kept Lyra steady. She began to notice patterns, learning from him, adapting her movements. The human wasn't just saving her. He was teaching her to survive. Suddenly, a small squad of Zarkari appeared ahead, trying to block their path. Jack acted instantly. He spotted a loose boulder above the path. With careful precision, he dislodged it, sending it crashing down in front of the soldiers. The impact blocked their advance long enough for Jack and Lyra to slip past. Lyra gasped, amazed at his quick thinking. Humans were clever, daring, and unrelenting. Jack had not just saved her life, he had shown her a way to fight back, to survive even against overwhelming odds. As they pressed on toward the extraction point, Lyra realized something important. Humans were not just heroes in stories. They were real, capable of courage, intelligence, and hope in ways that could change the course of a life or a planet. In that moment, running alongside Jack, Lyra felt a strength she had never known. She was no longer just a captive. She was free. And that freedom, she realized, had been given to her by the actions of one extraordinary human soldier. The canyon winds howled around Jack and Lyra as they moved swiftly along the narrow paths. The extraction point was close, just beyond the final cliffs. But the Zarkari were relentless. Every shadow seemed to hide a pursuer, every distant noise a warning of danger. Lyra's heart raced, but she no longer felt paralyzed by fear. Jack's calm presence and precise instructions gave her confidence. She followed him without hesitation, trusting his every move. "Keep to the edge," Jack said, pointing to a narrow ledge overlooking the canyon below. "One wrong step and we could fall. Stay close." Lyra nodded, gripping the edge carefully. The drop was dizzying, but she had no choice. Jack moved first, testing the path, then extended his hand to her. She stepped forward and took it, letting him guide her across. Every motion, every calculated step, reinforced her faith in the human beside her. Below, the Zarkari patrols continued to search, but Jack's strategy was working. The narrow paths and treacherous cliffs slowed the aliens down, giving them precious minutes. Lyra realized that humans did not rely on sheer strength alone. They used intelligence, strategy, and observation, turning even the most hopeless situation into an opportunity. Suddenly, a group of Zarkari appeared ahead, blocking their path to the extraction point. Jack assessed the situation quickly. He noticed a loose rock formation above them and had an idea. "When I give the signal, jump to the side ledge," he instructed. "Use the rocks to cover yourself." Lyra nodded, fear flickering briefly in her eyes. But she followed his lead. Jack gave a small whistle, and they leapt to the side ledge just as the rocks tumbled down, creating chaos among the Zarkari. Shouts echoed below, and the patrol scrambled to regain control. Jack and Lyra moved quickly along the ledge, putting distance between themselves and their pursuers. After a tense few minutes, they reached a narrow canyon opening where a small human transport waited, partially hidden by rocks. Jack ran ahead to check for security, while Lyra crouched, catching her breath. Her chest still raced, but it was no longer from sheer terror. It was a mixture of relief, exhilaration, and awe at what humans could achieve. Jack waved her forward. "Go! Quickly!" Lyra sprinted the final few meters and climbed into the transport. Jack followed, sealing the door behind him. The engine roared to life, lifting them from the canyon floor. Below, Kalara stretched endlessly, war-torn, dangerous, and chaotic. But for the first time in her life, Lyra felt safe. As they soared above the cliffs, Lyra looked at Jack. I don't even know how to thank you," she said softly. Jack shook his head. "No thanks needed. Just live your life, stay free, and remember that someone believed in you. That's enough." Lyra's eyes filled with emotion. She had been moments away from a life she did not choose. Yet now she was free because of one human's courage and quick thinking. She realized that humans were not just brave, they were selfless, strategic, and capable of inspiring hope, even in the darkest circumstances. The transport moved toward a larger human base, hidden on a distant plateau. Jack kept his eyes on the scanners, ensuring no Zarkari forces followed them. The base was a haven for rescued captives, a place where aliens like Lyra could finally feel safe. The thought filled her with relief and gratitude. As the transport landed, Lyra stepped out carefully, taking in the sight of the human base. Soldiers moved efficiently, guiding newly arrived captives and preparing for any potential threats. Despite the activity, the atmosphere was calm, organized, and welcoming, a stark contrast to the chaos of the Zarkari-controlled world they had escaped. Jack helped her down from the transport. "You're safe now," he said simply. "Take a moment to breathe, then we'll get you settled." Lyra nodded, her voice trembling slightly. Jack smiled faintly. "Humans have always believed that everyone deserves a chance. Some of us act on that belief." Lyra's gaze softened. She realized that courage, intelligence, and compassion could change lives. The humans were different from the Zarkari not because they were stronger, but because they were willing to fight for freedom and justice, even when it was dangerous. That lesson stayed with her, strengthening her resolve. Over the next few hours, Lyra was given food, water, and a safe place to rest. She sat quietly, thinking about everything that had happened. The fortress, the chase, the danger, it all seemed surreal. Yet she knew it was real. And she knew one thing for certain. Without Jack, she would never have survived. As night fell over the base, Lyra stood on a small balcony overlooking the distant mountains. The stars shone brightly, a reminder of the vast universe beyond Kaelara. She felt a quiet determination rising inside her. She would not forget what she had seen, what she had learned, and what humans like Jack were capable of. One life, one act of courage, could change everything. Jack appeared beside her, his presence calm and reassuring. "You'll be okay here," he said. "You have a chance to live your own life now. Don't waste it." Lyra turned to him, eyes shining. "I won't. I promise. You showed me that freedom is worth fighting for, and that even one person can make a difference." Jack nodded, satisfied. "Good. That's all I needed to hear." For the first time in her life, Lyra felt truly free. The fear that had dominated her every thought was gone, replaced by hope, courage, and a desire to make a difference. She had been moments away from losing everything, yet she had been given a second chance. And that chance was proof that humans, with their determination, ingenuity, and compassion, could achieve the impossible. As the night deepened, Lyra looked at the stars and made a quiet vow. She would survive, she would thrive, and she would share the story of the human who had risked everything to save her. She would honor that courage by living freely and helping others whenever she could. Jack watched her silently, knowing that his mission had succeeded, not just because he had saved a life, but because he had given hope to someone who would carry it forward. Humans had a way of leaving marks that could not be erased, shaping the lives of those they touched with courage, intelligence, and heart. The base was safe, the Zarkari were defeated in this area, and for Lyra, a new life was beginning. She had been given freedom, and she had witnessed the extraordinary strength of humanity, not in weapons or brute force, but in bravery, determination, and the willingness to act for what was right. As the first light of dawn touched the mountains, Lyra knew that the story of this day would stay with her forever. One human soldier had stepped in when all hope seemed lost, and in doing so, he had changed the course of her life. For Lyra, the future was bright, and for humanity, the story of courage and hope had once again proven that even in the darkest moments, one person could make a difference.